I just wanted to point out a few items. You will be introduced to a few new concepts in this, but you also will do many of the same repeated things with formatting and just reinforce what you kind of did already in Module 1. So on the assignment sheet, these are the things I want to direct you to that are going to be just a little bit different than what the book describes, but you can still do all of them. It's just going to look a little bit different. When you jump into the text itself, you will see here on this page, this is what your final product is going to look like for Olivia's art supply. And you will be doing all of those things, adding in all of the conditional formatting, all of the formulas. We're going to get a little bit more complex with formulas as we go through this. To take a look at the next page, I would come back to this table 2-1, and I would take this information and I would copy and paste this information into your spreadsheet. Do not put it in cell A1 because you'll be doing some reformatting and some changing some stuff around. But just select this plus sign, make it bigger, and then once you get that enlarged screen, copy and paste all of that information. Put that into your spreadsheet, but put it down lower. And then as you need those numbers or as it calls for you to type those names and numbers in, copy and paste those babies up. You will be doing some reformatting of the fonts and the sizes, so you don't have to worry about changing those or making those go back to the same. But this is the sheet I would come back to, table 2-1. As we move forward through this, a couple of things I want to note. One is when we get to 2-3, and I'm going to just fast forward here a little bit to get myself to 2-3. It's going to talk about flash filling. Now, our flash fill works, but it is not exactly the same as what it says in the book. And so basically what flash filling is right here, I populated this entire list of people, and all I had to do, I followed the directions in the book, and I typed these first two in. And as I did those first two, then I went to flash fill. Well, in the book it says you can go to data and go to flash fill, and it doesn't really seem to be there. If you can find it, hey, that would be awesome because it's just right here. But otherwise, you can always remember, go up to your help menu, and you could just type in flash fill, and then it tells you, whoops, exactly where to go on the menus, and it points it right out to you. So when you are doing a flash fill, though, it's important to note as you do that, oh, I have to be in the right cell or it's not going to do a flash fill. You have to be smarter than the computer itself. So again, I went to my flash fill. And like I said, it's not exactly this, oh my heavens. It's not exactly the same as what you see in the book, but it will do the exact same thing. Now, I already have these totals typed in down here, so I would have to delete those. And it does tell you in the book to go delete it from up here. So be careful not to select them because otherwise it goes to a web page and then it's like a false web page. And so I'm just going through and I'll just delete those. So you do have flash fill. It just looks a little bit different than what the book tells you to do for flash fill. One of the things that I want to talk to you about is it's going to have you do your totals and your highest and your lowest and your average and all that stuff. When you get to those, it is very important that you do not get in the habit of selecting your data and then expecting that it's going to put that data directly below or in the next adjacent cell. It's important that you select the cell where you want that formula or that answer to appear, and then you make the formula happen in there. And if you go to the book with me, it's in section 2.6, I believe 2.6a, because that's where I even have a change. Yes. And so your function dialog box is not going to look quite like this. That's just another change I wanted you to note. You will still have many of the exact same things that can happen and can appear. I want to draw your attention to this box way at the bottom, though, that says there's many different ways, and this is the truth. There are many different ways to put in a formula. So in the case of these simple formulas, minimum, maximum, average, sum, things like that, it's easy to use whatever's on this home ribbon. And so I'm in the cell where I want this total to appear, and I can go way over to the right, and it's this ellipson is the sum, or there's also a pull-down menu for it. And then I can go choose, and you can't see this because it's off my screen, but I can go choose the average, the sum, the count, the minimum, the maximum. In this case, I'll just do a simple sum, and it could go right there. Another way I can do a formula, though, is I can always, if you saw it right here, I could also go to my formulas tab and go to that function library. And what that will do is bring, well, I do have the ellipson right here as well, but I also could come over here to this insert functions. And then what it does is gives me a formula bar off here to the right hand side, and I could just search and go find, well, I want to do a sum here. And there it is. I double click on it and it's going to select that range for me, and it says this is the range of E4 through E12. If I hit done, boom, it's there, same way. Personally, if it's going to be one of these simple formulas, meaning one of these, I would probably just use this ellipsin. But that's, again, just me. Work smarter, not harder, people. Another way I could do it, though, and this is the way you pretty much have to do it if you're going to do things in Google Sheets, because you have to know your formulas, is type the equals, because every formula starts with an equals. Start typing the word for the formula you want. In this case, I want sum, and so I can type that, and I want the sum of, and then I could either type in E4 through E12, or I could click and drag, and it selects that, put my right parentheses on to close that formula, and I'm done. So I just wanted to draw your attention to that so you could see that that happened. A couple other things that I want you to look at. We're going to be doing some conditional formatting, and conditional formatting looks a little bit different. So if you jump with me in your book, or if you just want to follow along right here to 28J, and I will just show you, first of all, conditional formatting is something like my husband actually uses a lot in his job, because when they have to spit out reports of this is what has happened with crime or whatever, and they want to show, aggregates of high or low, or this is, the center point or something like that, you would do that to make it more visually appealing to your end user. And especially if you have a big set of data, you would want to point that out. So in this case, you're going to be doing it with your hours worked, and they want to see, like, well, who's like really working a bunch of overtime, or who's not working as much. Conditional formatting really just applies simple formatting if certain conditions are met. Now, the book says you can assign it to a cell, a range of cells, an entire worksheet, or the entire workbook if you choose to do that. And if it doesn't meet that specified condition, then you can modify it. And so let me bounce to the next page just so you can see this is what you will not do. Ours will not look like this. It will be very similar though, and so I want to show you what it's going to look like. So I'm just going to go to, I'm just going to stay in this hourly pay rate, and we'll say the people who get paid, and I do need to select the range first of all. We're going to say the people who do get paid like a certain amount, that is what they will get. And so I'm going to come back to my home, and you'll see conditional formatting is there. It is also under, I believe, the data. It's not under the data. It's under the conditional formatting is under the format menu as well. And you can go down to conditional formatting here. Either way is fine. When you click on this disclosure triangle here, you will see that you will want to set a new rule. We will probably not use any of these top ones because we're setting specific conditions, not any that just meet top or bottom or whatever they have. So we will set a new rule for this range that we have selected. And this is where it's different than the book. This does not look anything like the book. I want you to go down and use classic. And I put that in the notes as well. If you take a look at this, classic conditional formatting is what you want to use. So make a note of that maybe on that section. So then in classic conditional formatting, I can tell it, well, I want it to only cells that contain, or only cells that are above or below an average, or only cells that are whatever. I only want only cells that contain, and I don't want it to contain. I want it to cells that, I want to do unique values. Now I want to do cells that are above the average. And so it will figure out the average. And then I can come in here and I can even customize this because maybe I don't like green with green. So when I go to custom, I get my dialog box that's going to appear for my colors. And then I can say, well, I want those to be, I want you to put a border around those, an outline border. I want you to fill it with, let's fill it with this plum color. And just to be easy to point out, then I'm going to go back to the font, and I want it to be what color? Like this green would stand out on there. And so anything that is above or below the average, once I click it, it automatically does that for me, and it just points that out. So these are above the average pay rate for people. Now, can you put in so it's greater than or less than? Oh, heavens, yes. And that's what you're going to be doing for the assignments upcoming as well. So remember, you want to go to conditional formatting, but you'll want to go to new rule and then classical. Now, if I already have this data set selected and I'm like, oh gosh, I know I made a mistake or I forgot to include one and I want to go back and include it, I can come to conditional formatting and manage my rules, and then it's going to allow me to make some changes. And with this one selected, if I have a bunch of them, obviously I could add more plus, or I could subtract and minus. But if I edit this rule, then I can make the changes in here to whatever I want. Maybe I don't want it above or below an average. I only want it specifically cells that begin with a 1 or 10. Let's try that. And actually, I'm going to do 18 because we have specifically an 18. And then again, I'll use the same custom stuff. And I'll click OK and OK. And now only the ones that are starting with $18 in pay are the ones that I've selected. Can I apply more than one condition to a data set? Yes, definitely yes. This last one I'm not going to actually show you because it seems to just make sense, but when you are trying to resize your column width or your row height, it's going to ask you to do it in pixels, or it'll give you the number. Look at that number and just round up to the number. So like this one, you're going to be expanding. Do you see how it says 16 and 16 pixels? Just round up to the nearest number that it's talking about. Now that seems to make sense right there, but when you go to the columns, you'll notice it says width is 10 and 65 pixels. Don't pay attention to the pixels, just round up to that nearest whatever the width is supposed to be. If you have any questions, I'm at a tech conference, so you can definitely just shoot me an email or send me a quick text, and I will be all over trying to respond to this. I will wish you good luck, farewell, go forth and learn.